Jen, Jen Risley. This portion is being recorded now because her portion is being recorded. So Jen Risley uh, is Vital Communities. She served as an early organizer of the Monadnock Co-op in 2007. It was a founding board member in 2010. In addition to her co-op work, she's a program manager of the local crowd Monadnock, a community-based crowdfunding program, and a steering committee member for Monadnock Alliance and Sustainable Transportation. She also serves as interim local economy project coordinator for Vital Communities. Jen is a graduate of the Antioch University, New England, so it gives me great joy to present to others and introduce to some Jen Risley, and the virtual floor is yours, and we are so delighted to have you here today.
Thank you. Sorry for the tongue twisters there of bio, but thank you for the introduction, Reverend Walker, and thank you all. I can't see you all, but thank you all for being here. And just to recap, I'm Jen Risley. I'm the program manager of the local crowd Monadnock and community success coach with the local crowd, which is based in Wyoming. I also work with Vital Communities and help with their local economy efforts. But for just the sake of this presentation, I'm going to focus on just the local crowd Monadnock, which is just one program. There's lots others. So the local crowd, we also call TLC Monadnock, is a community-based crowdfunding program that empowers individuals to support the businesses and the initiatives that grow wealthier and healthier communities. If you're new to the idea of crowdfunding, it's the practice of sourcing small contributions, even as little as $1, from a large number of people to provide funding for a particular effort or initiative. So TLC Monadnock leverages crowdfunding to build more resilient communities, supporting campaigns that focus on sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, affordable housing, and alternative transportation, to name a few. We really give preference to campaigns that are aligned with our regional master plan so that the local crowd isn't deciding what's important to our community. We're using what our community has already put forth to guide our way. Then we guide those teams through the process of planning and executing a successful crowdfunding campaign from start to finish. We're really about helping them turn their social equity or their relationships into financing to move them forward. So a little bit about our history. We started in 2017 as a 2-year pilot study to build support networks for entrepreneurs, specifically in rural communities. During that pilot, we focused on 5 communities that were most economically impacted by the closure of Vermont Yankee, which is a nearby nuclear power plant. The closing was estimated by some of the economists in our area that not only would it result in the loss of 176 high-paying jobs, but it would have a ripple effect that reduced our economic activity by $30 million annually. And we wanted to demonstrate that instead of recruiting a big business from outside, maybe another one not so sustainable, we wanted to show that we could empower community members to support values-aligned businesses and grow jobs in a slower, more organic, more sustainable and resilient way. When our pilot ended, we are one of 4 communities invited to participate in a second study, really supporting the 4th sector economy. So we built on the initial success we had and focused more on social entrepreneurs, those triple bottom line businesses, again, through crowdfunding, specific education and support around giving them the tools they need to grow their business. So today we have expanded from just a few towns to the whole Monadnock region in Southwest New Hampshire, and also just opening it up to our neighbors in Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire. So for us, TLC Monadnock is a way to activate our community to invest their change, however small or large, into the change we want to see. When community members support a campaign, it's not really just a transaction, it's a relationship with a friend and a neighbor. And so far we've helped 27 campaigns raise over $230,000 from about 2,000 supporters just in our region. And especially during the pandemic, we were able to really fuel a lot of responses. So we helped our food co-op finance a refrigerated trailer to grow our curbside pickup program for customers most at risk. We raised funds to purchase to help purchase a second e-bike battery for a local coffee roaster so they could make deliveries while closed. They found that they were sending out boxes through UPS and they're like, this person lives down the street from us. Let's get our e-bike and make sure that we have enough batteries to get us around. So, and then we helped a number of farmers respond to the surge in demand for local food with different infrastructure projects. The latest campaign is actually supporting a Monadnock restaurant project where we're partnering with a local restaurant owner and a local delivery service, food hub. And we're trying to mobilize people to help local restaurants get through the winter. So we really are giving restaurants a shot in the arm they need by empowering people to go out there and safely dine at these local restaurants. So behind the scenes, we're working to build a stronger ecosystem of investors, entrepreneurs, service providers, and of course, neighbors and friends. So we're actually hosted by the Monadnock Food Co-op. So I mentioned that I work as a community success coach for the local crowd. It's actually an LLC based in Wyoming. And then we have a contract with the local crowd for a year to use their technology and their programs, but they're looking for it to be embedded in the community. They don't just want to be far away helping out individuals. They want it based locally. So our co-op has decided to be the host. It's managed by a team of volunteer business advisors from the New Hampshire Small Business Development Center, our Greater Keene Peterborough Chamber of Commerce, and the Monadnock Economic Development Corporation. We have something called a Pay It Forward program, and that provides us with extra funding to support campaigns aligned with our community's top priorities. So we actually poll our community and say, you know, there's lots of different attributes that create a strong local living economy, but what should we put most of our dollars in terms of support and resources? And our community wanted affordable housing, sustainable agriculture, and equity. And so we're working hard to try to identify, you know, kind of grassroots projects that we could lift up with our crowdfunding platform and addressing those community priorities. And this is a busy slide, but it kind of like, we usually talk about the local crowd Monadnock in terms of the financing ecosystem, but it's the same thing with resiliency as well. We're just one little small, you know, one rung in this ladder to get us to where we want to be. And so the local crowd might be at the beginning of the ladder, but we want to foster that ecosystem throughout. So if you're based in the Monadnock region, I'd love to go ahead and say, get connected with us. To the north of us in the Upper Valley, they have their own crowd, the local crowd, through Vital Communities. But we really hope that if people find that this might be a good tool for them to build more resiliency in their community, to go ahead and get in touch with us, and we can talk more about bringing it to where you live and where you work. That was a short recap. I don't know if we have time for questions in the schedule.
Yes, because look like we're doing good on timing. So yes, we do have time for a Q&A.
Okay.
You can't see me, but how do you get the word out? Do you use social media to fund source, or the web, or emails? How do you do that?
Yeah, originally it was all about going into the communities. We'd partner with other organizations that were holding community events, and we would actually go in and say, you know, we had a small grant, So we would say, we want to co-sponsor your event, and then we want to come in and we want to, we want to meet people who you think would be good fits to launching a campaign with us. So it was very much like just getting them to know, getting the different towns to know that this was a resource. Because since I live in Keene, some of the outlying towns were like, well, you live in a bigger community, this isn't going to work in our town. So it really was that kind of grassroots, on the ground, meeting people. And then as our reputation, got around, we were able to rely more on, email blasts and newsletters and press releases and social media. And because we have a number of partners, whenever we have a call for proposals for crowdfunding campaigns, they help to amplify that. And now that we have, over 24 campaigns, they also help us out. So when we're looking for new campaigns to support, they'll talk to their friends and be like, oh, have you thought about crowdfunding? So social media is a great way to kind of get awareness, but in terms of inspiring action, it's a little bit harder to reach people inundated with all the messaging.
And the follow-up question I had was, how do you get sort of people that have historically had less access to that kind of communication, that you want to get participating in a process that actually may help them also?
Yeah, that's been a challenge because, we are volunteer based, but what we've done is we've gone and we've identified certain community organizations that work. Like we have Keene Housing, and Keene Housing has another nonprofit called Keene Housing Kids Collaborative. So by kind of doing some outreach with them, they are able to help us identify leaders of campaigns. And so we're hoping to kind of roll that out so that with our Pay It Forward program, we can assess what the needs are for our campaign teams and give them not just the resources we give everybody, but a little bit more, depending on what, they might be really strong with social media. So we don't want to necessarily give them extra training or resources on that. Maybe there's something else that we've discovered that we can help them. I know with one group, we paid for them to have a video created for their campaign, because that was something that was just a barrier to raising the funds they wanted. So we can kind of use what we have, and through an assessment that we have everyone go through, we can figure out what people's strengths and weaknesses are and kind of try to fill in the gaps.
Okay. So I have a question from Anna, and she's asking, could you speak a little bit about the economic impacts of the projects, the impacts to jobs, money kept in the community that doesn't fly?
Yeah. I mean, it's right now, because we are so young, we definitely don't have that statistics behind us, but we did do a multiplier study with civic economics. And so from that study, we know that our locally owned businesses tend to recirculate 4 times more money than non-local. So because something really important to us, and something I didn't really present, is that we are working with locally owned businesses. If there is a non-local business that wants to work with us, we'll tell them, there's Kickstarter and there's other great platforms out there. But in terms of working with us, we're trying to funnel our resources toward locally owned businesses. So there's not anything specific that I can share in terms of numbers of economic development, but that multiplier effect is giving us the courage to move forward. And we do have a survey that community economist Michael Schumann created for us that we implemented when we first started this project. But again, it's going to be 5 years before we can even see some of those impacts, because it is very small. But for me, I kind of see this as a small tool that's going to help some other economic development efforts out, because you're kind of bringing small kind of people who are thinking about donating a small amount and getting them to think about giving larger amounts, perhaps to a community economic fund or something like that. So we're kind of a small piece in the big puzzle.
Thank you for that. We have another question taken from Savannah. Have you had any partnerships? My bad, Savannah. Have you had any partnerships or conversations with local philanthropies or other organizations about leveraging these funds against other grants slash et cetera. Pardon me if you hear the church bell. Curious to learn more about the agreement slash mechanism, if so.
Yeah, that's a great question too, because unlike Kickstarter and some other ones, we can have matching funds set up through the program. So you could have like our Economic Development Corporation in the beginning was really interested in seeing this become more of an equity or a investment-based system, but we just don't have the security laws to make it happen. So if they're able to give us like, okay, we believe in this one project, we're going to give you a $2,500 matching grant. Then when for every dollar that people give, it's going to be matched by our Economic Development Corporation. One thing that I'm really excited about doing in the future is going to those funds and saying, if this one project can get 100 or 200 people to support it, does that demonstrate that the community is behind it enough to give them a larger amount of money? So I think, again, that's where it really could boost a lot more efforts, because most of our campaigns raise $10,000, $15,000 from 100 to 200 people. And that's not always enough to do what they want to do, but it is that social proof that can get them farther in the future that I think is where the real magic will happen again, because we are relatively new.
Thank you for that. I would be curious to ask this question, and then if there's no other questions, we'll break out into Q&A, and we'll declare what the question is, not Q&A, to small groups, and we can declare what the question is. I'm curious to know, for the crowdsourcing, crowdfunding program, have you, so it sounds like a lot of local efforts. I'm wondering, is the vision including at some point political candidates or working or candidates using this crowdfunding program, community-based crowdfunding program to raise funds for their campaigns, or maybe churches or faith communities using this crowdfunding program to raise money for a particular charitable cause, et cetera?
Yeah, we haven't really explored the idea of politicians raising money for political. I think it's the amount that people could actually bring forward probably wouldn't be enough for most candidates. But I can see, churches that want to, maybe around food access work or affordable housing, transition housing, they could definitely use our program tools. Our United Way is using it, and that was always kind of surprising to me, because I think of our United Way agency as being like fundraising all the time. So to have them come to us and say, we want your help to fundraise, well, they wanted our help to reach the younger generation. So it wasn't really about the dollars, it was about expanding to a new community. So, we definitely would be open to those conversations. There are a lot of platforms out there, so there probably is one that's better suited for political, work. But that doesn't mean we would exclude that, especially if there were somebody who was trying to forward our community's master plan and other things. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And one last question, or at least for me, I wonder, so could communities consider using this across New England, or just specifically Maine?
This is a national, yeah, a national, access. So how it works is, I mentioned the contract. We pay the local crowd $3,000 a year. That's kind of like the highest level you could participate in, but there are other programs that are more like $1,000 a year, and that way you could have multiple, we call them initiatives, multiple organizations using it. But how it works in the $3,000 level is that there is a 5% fee that we take from the campaigns. So the amount, they don't pay anything up front for the training. They pay a 5% fee from whatever they brought in online. Offline contributions is all theirs. And then that 5% fee, about 2.5 of it goes to the local crowd in Wyoming, and the rest goes back to the Monadnock local crowd so that we can reinvest it and have more money to do outreach and training and all that. So, you know, it's funny because we call it a fee, but it really is part of that pay it forward. It's kind of a self-financing. When it works well, it's self-financing so that we can just get better and better and better at helping campaigns launch and be successful.
Ah, gotcha. Well, thank you for
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and move into the discussion groups. And the question that we like people to consider is looking at the case study through an equity